All right, today we're going to do something pretty interesting. We're going on a journey to explore the different maps we've made to try and understand the most complicated place in the universe, our own minds. I mean, really think about that for a second. We have maps for pretty much everything: cities, the stars, even our DNA. But what about that inner world? The place where your thoughts and memories and your very sense of self actually live. Let's take a look at how we first started to chart that territory. So, where do you even begin? Well, our story starts with the first, most basic map of memory. It was this foundational blueprint that tried to make sense of a simple question: how does stuff from the outside world get locked away in our brains? Okay, so check this out. This is the model that kind of kicked everything off back in the 70s. Its real power was just how simple it was. It basically pictured the mind like an early computer. You can see the flow here. Information comes in through the senses, hangs out for a second in this temporary working memory buffer, and then, if you think about it enough, it gets saved to the long-term memory hard drive. It was a really clean, straight-line model, a truly revolutionary first draft. But here's the thing, the mind isn't a simple assembly line, is it? As you can see in this updated model, researchers figured out pretty quickly that things are happening all at once, in parallel. The different parts of memory are always talking to each other, and a brand new player enters the map: attention. Suddenly, it's not a one-way street anymore. It's this dynamic, buzzing network. So that middle box, working memory, turned out to be way more interesting than just some temporary holding area. Let's zoom in a bit and see how our map of this crucial mental workspace got a major upgrade. And this is where things get really cool. This is a game-changing idea from a researcher named Nelson Cowan. He basically asked, what if working memory isn't a separate place at all? What if it's just the part of your giant long-term memory that you're currently shining a spotlight on? And this diagram just nails that idea. Just look at these nested circles for a second. Imagine your entire long-term memory is this massive, sprawling library. Well, the activated memory is all the books you've just pulled off the shelves and have sitting on your table. But that tiny little circle in the middle, the focus of attention, that's the single paragraph you're actually reading right now, with a bright spotlight shining on it. It's all part of the same library, just with different levels of onness. So what's actually happening in the brain? Well, it turns out memory has like two modes. The focus state is like having a file open on your computer. It's active, it's on because your neurons are literally firing away. But then there's the unfocused state. This is where the info is held silently in the brain's wiring, the strength of the connections. It's like a file you just saved. It's not open, but it's right there, ready to be pulled up in a flash. Okay, so we've got a handle on the what of memory. But how does it feel? How does our mind create that smooth, seamless stream of consciousness where one thought just melts into the next? For that, we need an even more detailed map. This model gives us a beautiful way to think about it. Forget a bucket that you empty and refill with each new thought. No. Picture a river. New water is always flowing in and mixing with the water that's already there. Your current thought isn't brand new. It's actually a blend of what you were just thinking about and the new stuff that's just popped into your head. So here's how it works step by step. You have a thought active in your mind. Then some parts of it start to fade as your attention shifts. But, and this is key, they don't all just vanish. New related ideas bubble up and become active. And your next thought is this amazing, continuous blend of what was just there and what's emerging right now. This is literally what creates the feeling of an unbroken self. All right, so we've gone from a super simple three-box model all the way down to the flow of a single thought. Now let's pull the camera way, way back. What would a map for an entire mind look like? Not just memory, but everything. Perception, attention, learning, and action, all working together. Whoa. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This looks intense. And you're right, it is. This is the LIDA cognitive architecture. Just take a moment and scan it. Don't even try to memorize the boxes. Just think of it as a blueprint for an artificial mind. It's this hugely ambitious attempt to map out the entire operating system of a mind, showing how all the different pieces we've been talking about might actually fit together. But here's the secret. Underneath all that complexity, it's just running a really simple loop over and over again. It's called the cognitive cycle. First, it senses the world and tries to figure out what's going on. Second, different bits of information all compete for the spotlight of attention. And third, once something wins and becomes conscious, the system chooses an action and learns from whatever happens next. Sense, focus, act, learn, again and again. So who are the little guys actually doing all the work in this crazy system? Well, they're called codelets. You can think of them as these tiny, special-purpose workers that are constantly running in the background, processing information, and deciding what's important enough to pay attention to. Let's see how they work. And they basically come in two flavors. You've got your structure-building codelets. These are the analysts. They're looking at all the incoming data and connecting the dots, building a sense of what's going on. And then you have the attention codelets. These guys are the promoters. So imagine you're hungry and walking down the street. The structure codelets are identifying shapes as restaurant, bakery, cafe. But an attention codelet sees your favorite pizza place, teams up with your hunger feeling, and basically screams, "Hey, this is important," pushing that idea right into the spotlight of your consciousness. Okay, let's pause. Every map we've looked at so far, they're all about the how. The mechanics, the wiring. They see the mind as this brilliant machine for processing information. But that's not the whole story, is it? Our inner world isn't just about processing data. It's about meaning and feeling and our deepest sense of who we are. For that, we need a totally different kind of map. And asking that question, it takes us out of the lab in cognitive science and into a completely different world, the world of depth psychology, and specifically the work of Carl Jung. He wasn't trying to map how we think, he was trying to map the human soul. And this is his map. Just take a second to look at this structure. It's totally different, right? Up at the top, in the light, you have the conscious ego. That's the I that you know, the person you show to the world. Right below that is the personal unconscious, which holds all of your own forgotten memories and experiences. But deeper still, as the very foundation, is Jung's most radical idea, the collective unconscious. This is probably Jung's biggest, most mind-bending idea. He believed that we're not born as blank slates. He argued that beneath all of our personal stuff, there's this deep, universal layer of the mind that we all share as human beings. And it's filled with what he called archetypes, these ancient built-in patterns for experiences like the hero, the mother, or the shadow. They're like the blueprints for the great stories that shape all of our lives. So if that's the map, what's the point of the journey? Well, for Jung, it was a process he called individuation. It's the lifelong quest to connect your conscious ego to that deeper, wiser whole self. And this map shows just how crucial that connection is. When that link between the ego and the self is strong, it leads to a feeling of health and purpose. But when it's broken, it can lead to feeling alienated or depressed. The whole journey is about building and strengthening that bridge to your deepest self. And here's the thing, it's not a straight line. You don't just get there and you're done. It's a spiral. Throughout your life, you cycle through these encounters with your unconscious, and each time you hopefully integrate a little more of it, moving to a higher, more whole level of awareness. It's a lifelong process of just becoming more fully yourself. So there you have it, 4 totally different maps. A simple computer flowchart, a spotlight in a library, a blueprint for an artificial intelligence, and a deep, symbolic map of the human soul. Each one gives us a different way to look at ourselves. So the final question is for you. As you go about your day, navigating your own thoughts and feelings, which one of these maps actually helps you find your way?